and welcome to this week's video. This week I wanted to actually do something in my sketchbook. I have a list that I made last year, which was a daily prompt list, and I stopped doing it around about mermaid time, and it was sort of a way for me to like play around and do something that I wouldn't normally do with a few fun prompts, and I never got around to finishing it, so I really wanted to work on it. This sketchbook that I'm using is a Mossery mixed media sketchbook, so I've been able to play around with lots of different mediums in here, and thought it would be fun to, I don't know, do the prompt fantasy dream with these Ecoline brush pens. Now I've had these sitting for a while and didn't really know what to do with them because they are a pastel sort of colour set, and I thought fantasy dream, this is perfect for this, and I thought it'd be really fun to share my experience with it. So what are the Ecoline brush pens? Well, they are a large fibre brush nib which is soft and pliable, which is great for achieving variety of line widths and effects in which they keep their shape very well. Now it says on the site that the ink is water based and not particularly light fast, so Ecoline advises keeping works in portfolio for best colour retention. It essentially means that the colours aren't light fast, which means if you put it up on a wall and direct light is going to shine on it, it is going to fade. Now this does happen with a lot of student grade materials as well as alcohol markers, and it's to do with like there is no protective layer or the ink. It mainly happens a lot with ink. So this is an interesting one because up on here this says Ecoline is a fantastic transparent liquid with watercolour ink which offers a wide range of colours available in bottled ink or brush pen form. With a shorter drying time than any other watercolours we've tested and beautifully bright and vivid colours available in a vast range, Ecoline stands out as one of the best watercolours around. The pure formula ink, which Ecoline advises is based on dyes and gun arabic, is the secret to their fantastically intense colours. The ink lends itself to blending and mixing extremely well. Simply add colour to the water laid down by the pens to mix and blend, or use a handy blender pen. I'm going to tell you this now. These did not blend with water, and I'm even going to do a test and show you exactly what happened with this. With these pens, I had a very interesting experience. Now I'm using here in particular, I am using mixed media paper, and it is going to behave better on watercolor paper just because, you know, that's the nature of it. But if you're doing water on top of water-based inks, they should still bleed, they should run, and I didn't get that. Oh no, I did not get that at all. So after finishing my sketch, I decided to finalize the rough outline of what I was doing because I knew I wanted something very soft. So I was going to go for pencil lines on top to be able to build up that texture and of course to build up that softness. So this is what the pens look like. This is the pastel range, and they come with a blender as well. And the blender is sort of like how a lot of blenders work with alcohol markers. They are meant to help blend the two colors together. All I found that the blender pen did was absolutely eat the ever-loving potato out of my paper. It does not like this at all. Now, of course, we could try this on watercolor paper and see if it gets the same effect, but if you have water-based pens and you put water on them, they should bleed, and the matter of fact is they didn't bleed. It felt a lot more like dye pens to me than actual watercolor based ink. And even if you look at the pen itself, it says dye based ink. Now I bought these off a website called Cult Pens, and I bought the pastel range, as I said, but it's one of those, it wasn't happening. And you can see here I'm trying out the blender pen to try and blend out the ink, and it's not working. Now I have tried the actual Ecoline watercolor inks before, and I really did like them, and since I'm a very happy person when it comes to alcohol markers, I sometimes find that pen versions of things are much easier for me to gel with. And I saw these and thought, oh, they'd be perfect for review. I got them in a sale, and I just was not impressed with them at all. the color lays out absolutely patchy, and you're gonna see here, I'm gonna actually grab some watercolor. So that's the pen, grab some watercolor, well, some water, zip my paintbrush, no bleeding, no nothing. No, it wasn't even blending it. And considering this is saying it's a water-based ink, I was extremely disappointed, because we could have gotten some really beautiful effects. When you have a water-based ink in any pen, and you can pick up that ink and you can use drop water effects and create some gorgeous effects overall. I was really looking forward to that, but the fact that when I was laying down the ink, it felt like, the best way I can describe it, it felt like the same sort of pens that I would get from like the pound shop. Now the brush itself is gorgeous. It lays down like absolutely beautifully. You can get a nice variety of line works on it, but the ink is the biggest disappointment in this pen I have had in a long time. Okay, if you're not a water-based ink, then what are you? I actually have a sneaking suspicion that this is more dye-based ink, which behaves very differently to watercolor ink. Now, I have had experience with the Ecoline watercolors before, and they behave very similarly to watercolors, but at the same time they don't. When you lay down watercolors, normally you're able to use water and lift that watercolor up off the paper, but my experience with the Ecoline watercolors, it stains the paper, so it sort of creates this interesting barrier to the paint. I don't know, I was sort of like just disappointed overall. I was like, well, I can't use watercolor to blend it. The ink is extremely patchy, as you can see here, and I'm trying a few different methods that I know. One of them is just a simple straight up and down method. You can create a really fun layer. Another one is a circular method, but it was just patchy and it was just very disappointing. I feel like that disappointed mum who looks at their kids going, really, you could have, you know what I mean? Why have you done this to me? But overall, I was able to create a fairly successful piece with this. In fact, I really actually do like this piece and would love to recreate it. But this is what sketchbooks are for. They are for experimenting. And I know a lot of people go, yes, but this is so clean. This is my clean sketchbook. This is where my, this is sort of like finalized ideas go to. And I have another sketchbook where not finalized ideas go into. And it's sort of like my way of being able to experiment and having that thing of like feeling not as much pressure. And if I like something in the sketchbook, sometimes they will go into finalized pieces. I will redo them into finalized pieces. Like, it's an experimentation, that's all it is there for. But I completely digress with that. So after sort of lying down all this color and being very disappointed with how the ink turned out, I decided to crack out my coloured pencils. I'm actually using a Faber-castell pencil. This is the colour grip. It is their cheaper version of the pencils, but I remember having these as a kid, and I have a massive nostalgia about these pens, and they're really good for sketchbook work. I wouldn't put them on finalised pieces, but they are really good for sketchbook work. They're sort of like the much cheaper version of their Polychromos or Prismacolor, no, it's Polychromos pencils, but they're not as good, if that makes any sense, and they're just really fun to use. But yeah, you can see here I was trying to sort of salvage certain areas, and I was like, well, I'm trying to keep to the pastel color range so it's not going too far, and it's just, oh, I was so mad at this point. But you know, I got some interesting effects with it. Now, would this be interesting to do a lot of experimentation with these pens? Absolutely. I would probably see myself trying out a few different things with them, but I was just so disappointed that it said it was a water-based ink, and it's not a water-based ink in any way, shape or form. Because water-based ink behaves differently to alcohol markers, and the fact that I wasn't getting that was really frustrating. Now, there is a technique that you can do where you can colour on a plastic surface and the ink isn't going to stay on that plastic surface, and then you can use your watercolour pencil, you can use your water colours, so you can basically dip your paintbrush into a bit of water and like be able to take it off the plastic that way and utilize it as watercolors. It's a technique that I've done before when I've painted with highlighters, which was a really fun video I did a while ago. But if you have a water-based ink, it needs to behave like a water-based ink, and there are differences. There are some water-based inks that aren't going to behave that way in any way, shape or form, but it's going to bleed if you add water to it. It's like some biros, like biro pens, like you add water to them, that ink's going to bleed. Like it just, I don't know, I was really annoyed with it. I think I managed to salve it in the end because I laid a lot, and I mean a lot, of pencil crayons on top. But what can I say? Can I recommend these to anyone? No. I think they're a beautiful pen range. I think they've got a fantastic amount of colours. But if you're after a water-based ink, so that you can switch between like whether or not you want it to look like watercolours or not, I can't recommend them. You're going to get the same effect with cheaper pens. And these aren't cheap at regular retail price. For 5 pens, regular retail price, they go for £10.50. And I was just so disappointed with the results that I just cannot recommend them to people in any way, shape or form. And yeah, I know some people will say, oh, but if you know a better technique to work with these pens, please tell me, because all the stuff that I did just wasn't working. But this piece, anyway, I'm really happy with this. It's all very pastel and fantasy based. I wanted a sort of like sleepy unicorn, because I draw these unicorn girls for my sketchbook covers, the ones I sell. And I have volumes 1 to 5, and I'm thinking of doing like a mega volume that has like all of the stuff that's in those sketchbooks and more. And we'll just call it Work in Progress, the collection. Let me know what you think of that, because it's one of those, I have a lot of books up on the store as it is anyway, and I am looking at upgrading some books and getting rid of some books as well. Which, speaking of my store, last week we had a huge store update. So if you have seen the studio vlogs, you would have seen the behind the scenes of me prepping for that store launch. I am now prepping for May's store launch. Yes, I have no chill. I have a lot of fun making products. It makes me very, very happy. But there are new notepads up on there. I have limited selections of some of my washi tape, because I actually need to do a reorder of those. And the new February book is up on there, as well as some originals and much more other merchandise. So if you are interested in that, let me know. I'm also interested in what products you would like me to try out in the future. Now, I try and not buy too many art products. I actually limit myself to what art products I buy each year, because I already have a massive collection. I have some markers due for a review, which are near me, which are some grayscale markers that I picked up because I needed them for a project I was working on, and they worked really, really well. So I'm looking forward to doing a review on those. But I'm always interested, are there any products that you'd like me to revisit? Are there any challenges you'd like me to do? Let me know. I'm always interested in hearing feedback and what you would like. I'm also looking at changing my content slightly up, just to make it a little bit more interesting. I love doing these speed paint style videos and reviewing products, because I think it's really important as an artist to have reviews on the products, so that people can have a better understanding of what they're looking for. It's very, very, very important as an artist that we have a wealth of information available to us. So if you want to know anything, let me know. I have I'm going to show a video. I'm going to try and get it done next week. I couldn't quite get it finished this week. I want to show you how I make sticker sheets with my Cricut. That's been really fun to experiment with, and a lot of paper got wasted in its time, but what can I say? I had a lot of fun creating. I like doing things. It makes me happy. What can I say? So finishing off some highlights with the white gel pen, which yet again will be listed down below, and the silver pen, which is by the same range, which is a Pentel Hybrid. I love the Pentel Hybrid gel pen. It is one of my all-time favorites. It's so bright and so vibrant. I tend to stockpile them because I run out of them so quickly because I use them so often. I actually have been trying to use acrylic ink a little bit more because it's a little bit more sustainable and creates less mess, but what can I say? But this is the final piece. I'm really happy with the final product, but I had to do a lot of work to make these pens work for me. And if you've had a different experience, please let me know. I would be very interested, but I cannot recommend these pens for you. Not for the price that they are. If you can get them on sale, you know, and you want to try them out, absolutely, but it wasn't my cup of tea. I wasn't very happy with it at all. But no, don't let that stop you. You know, best off looking at whatever other people's experiences have been as well. I can recommend the ink watercolors. I've really enjoyed those. They have been absolutely fantastic, but these pens, they're just not for me. I hope you have enjoyed this video and found it somewhat informative. If you wish to see more content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and join the little plant family. Have a wonderful day, love what you do, and as always folks, stay creative.